Till that in the late 90s with millions in the bank, David Lee Roth became a state-licensed EMT who went on hundreds of calls. Pretty fucking interesting guy. I'm just imagining him saving someone's life giving chest compressions and keeping in time by singing. Hamala bebola z burla babula. Hamala bebola z burla bop. I'd like to hear stories from his co-workers. I'm your EMT, stop me when I'm passing by. Come on Dave, gimme a break. Hooaaakai. One break. Coming up, you know who absolutely loves and adores David Lee Roth. David Lee Roth. Say what you want about Diamond Dave, but he's always learning, always pushing himself. Let's not forget he's also an avid cyclist and damn fine rock climber. I would kill to get a look at his bookshelf. Laughing at the thought of being resuscitated after a mishap and fucking late 90s David Lee Roth is right there staring you in the face. Yeah, know why he did it? He wanted to. No better reason needed to do good. My mother was a rock photographer in Cleveland in the 1970s to 1980s, and she took me to a Van Halen show in 1980 that she was shooting. After the show, she handed me a yellow pad of paper and a pen, told me to go up to that guy over there, David, and made me say, "Can I have your autograph?" Of course, I had no idea what I was doing. But apparently, I made some sense. David was so stoked to have a 4-year-old ask him for his autograph. I remember him being a very awesome, very sweet guy. I'd more appreciate him selling ice cream. I see a zany jumpy shot of a clown ambulance rolling up on an accident scene. Dave jumps out with over-exuberance and leans over the patient with a super close-up fisheye lens. And he yells "Woof." DLR isn't the only famous person to do this. 70s heartthrob Bobby Sherman quit music and acting to become a full-time EMT. He was inspired to do so from an appearance he made on the TV show Emergency. Dave's a hoot. He used to fill in for Joe Benson, longtime LA area radio DJ. Occasionally back in the late 90s early 2000s, he would turn the mic on and sing along with the songs every once in a while. It was a ton of fun. Got to talk to him on the phone a couple times too. I worked at a celebrity hotspot in NYC in the late 90s that had an upper floor that all the VIPs hung out on. DLR liked to chill on the main floor where anyone with a restaurant res could be at. He'd chill at the small bar. Tarantino was the same way. I'm just going to leave this here. https://youtube.b/irkpsbe0. I'm 21 and a huge Van Halen fan, rip Eddie. I love David Lee Roth. That guy lived his life to the fullest in one of the biggest bands ever, and he's so goddamn charismatic yet goofy as hell. Classic frontman. One Celine drip, coming up. True story. In the mid-2000s I worked with him and my then girlfriend to develop his website. I remember being shocked his long hair was a wig, and he rocked a clean buzz cut. He'd come into our office on a whim, change our radio station to jazz, eat our Pepperidge Farms cookies, and regale us with stories from both his rock and roll days and EMT tales from NYC. As a thank you/bonus, I got a VIP backstage pass to his show at Universal Studios. The highlight was the post-show high-fiving each other with whole-cooked lobsters, and him daring me to climb a security fence to test its effectiveness. I still have his House Industries font discs licensed in his name in a drawer at the end. Rogan's interview of him was actually an interesting listen. Dude doesn't sit still. Years ago my sister's Girl Scout troop had a cookie sale set up in front of a store. He came by, handed them a bunch of money, and left without any cookies. My mom was the only one who recognized him at the time. Dude, imagine having a heart attack, being completely out of it, and having that David Lee Roth moment in the ambulance. Why do I feel myself needing aid on a stretcher and David like kicking his leg in the air going scoot a bit cybop. And yeah. Woo-oh. As an ex-EMT, good for him. Respect. He didn't have to do it, but something told him to pay it forward. Good for him. When I was younger, I don't know why, but Sammy Hagar was always depicted as the cooler laid-back dude and David Lee Roth as the big asshole. Even though most fans prefer Roth as the lead singer, and Hagar was the more talented singer. But now that I am older and have read a lot about the band after Eddie died, it seems like it was the complete other way around. I guess Sammy used to refer to Roth as a faggot after he left the band and Sammy joined. To me as an adult, David Lee Roth seems more like a real person, quirks and all, while Sammy seems like a too cool for school caricature of someone who has zero problems in life. Legend has it he was let go after telling too many people to jump. We had a substitute PE teacher in the 90s in Amarillo TX that I swear was David Lee Roth. I could never prove it, but he had the same mannerisms, looked like him, and talked like him. He was always fun and seemed really cheerful. I know it was just some dude that resembled him, but back in high school I was convinced. I loved DLR, grew up idolizing the guy after EVH sucked me into the world of guitars and rock music. I highly recommend Dave's book, Crazy from the Heat. He's such an interesting guy. Alex Van Halen, David Lee Roth. That's an expensive name. Eddie Van Halen puts his hand up to Alex. No, it's Diamond David Lee Roth. Al starts laughing. They both knew him as Dave Roth in the early years. Man dying, man Dave, give me a break. David Lee Roth, arriving on the scene, one break, coming up. Listen to his interview on WTF. The bloke radiates an incredible energy. DLR has been fairly quiet over Eddie's passing. Seems like we've heard from so many but him. Gene Simmons had some very kind words the other day. In the 80s, the two things on TV I most looked forward to were editions of Dave TV and Al TV. That was back when MTV was still at its peak relevance. And here I was thinking he was just a gigolo. So he had enough money in the bank to do exactly what he wanted to do in life. Good for him. He worked in the Bronx for a while. I had a friend who was an EMT at the time who'd run into him from time to time. I wonder what more people would choose to do with their lives if they didn't have to worry about paying for food, house, or education. I was sitting at a bar in NYC in 2003 and this paramedic next to me looked just like Diamond Dave. It fucking was. Really cool guy 10/10. It's not about the money, it's about sending a message. Wealthy people somehow find a way to entertain themselves. You get bored in life when you no longer have to answer to anyone and have perpetual money forever. David Lee Roth lights the menorah before his shift. To save you from horror, we're gonna look after you all, Dave, all night. On Dave MT. That's pretty incredible, TBH. That's what I'd do if I had millions in the bank and didn't need to worry about my immediate future financially. I'd go and work somewhere that really helps people without worrying how much I'm being paid. This is what happens when people don't have to worry about paying their bills anymore. Also a great argument for universal basic income. Supposedly he didn't even use his ambulance's siren. He would just lean out the window and let out a couple woos. Rock legend, author, wrote and directed every VH video and his solo ones, movie producer, EMT, helicopter pilot, created/owns a company, Inc. The original, black belt, speaks multiple languages, rock climber, he climbed Mt. Everest. He is a pretty interesting guy. Very intelligent. But annoying AF. I bet he is the kind of guy you can only take in small doses. Back around 2004, I was doing some volunteer work, and met a fellow Nair who lived in the same neighborhood as DLR. She said about 2 years before that, she was walking by this restaurant that a friend of hers owned, and she stopped by to say hello, as her friend was outside. Who else was outside? DLR, dining at one of the outdoor tables. He noticed her talking to the restaurant owner before she moved on. A few weeks later, she's in a bodega picking up a couple of things, and DLR is in there, shopping as well. He notices her, walks up to her and says, "Excuse me, you look really familiar, do I know you from someplace?" She said it was one of the most surreal moments of her life, having one of the biggest rock stars in the world asking if he knew her from someplace.